Today we are on our last Shadow Ascendancy. The Saboteur is doing a Locust Mine self-cast Assassin's Mark build, and we have our 1 div budget in our T17 map. This is a monsters have frenzy charges, and endurance charges, and power charges, and their skills chain, and they impale, and they chain with colliding with terrain. So we're going to have a lot of bouncy projectiles around in the boss room. And they avoid poison, impale, and bleeding, which actually hurts us because we are using poison for crit immunity. But let's go ahead and hop in here and see how we do. Now, you do have one option for quality of life. Instead of running volatility support, you can run a pierce support for map clear, and then you can switch back to volatility support for bossing. Typically, we don't do like gem swappy stuff, but it's just good of an option on the power siphon to have pierce just for clear, and then switching over to volatility for bosses. I mean, you can just leave pierce on and do the bosses with pierce, and that's fine. Pierce does about 20% less bonus damage than volatility does on the average, so you're giving up, you know, like 20% of your damage because it's a more multiplier. But that pierce quality of life is so good. As you can see, our clear is really solid. All we do is throw locust mines down and then blink around and let power siphon. Now you do have to keep the mines away from you. Mines are near you, then they will not activate as part of the locust mine tech. So as you can see right here, we got a big tanky rare, so we hit him with an assassin's mark and then just blow him up. All of our potions all of our flasks are used when charges reach full, and a lot of our recovery does come from just flasks being continuously used. So make sure you are using when charges reach full and not reused at the end, or used when adjacent flask is used, anything like that. And so our recovery layers are pretty straightforward. We have a tremendous amount of regeneration that we just did not get to use because he came up and did ball righteous fire on our face. These beyond dudes are sketchy. We have a tremendous amount of regeneration from using our locust mines, and our locust mines will give us 2% regeneration per one activated recently, so 10% regeneration total almost all the time. We also have regeneration from a flask. We have leech from a flask for damage taken leeched his life. We have block recovery on hit. And then we have very, very solid defenses as well. Not quite enough to stand inside of that righteous fire nonsense. We're much better with dealing with hits than we are with degen. But defenses are solid on the character. Portals are always a defense. They're just not the one that we want to use unless we have to. So always play better. Now this will be the bosses room here. We're going to do the abomination bosses. We prefer to kill Dodri first because she has some mine nonsense that's really annoying. We're just going to go ahead and leave our pierce on for now. I think our damage will be perfectly fine with the pierce. It doesn't hurt to hit multiple of these guys. There's no downside to hitting multiple of these guys. Now, Power Siphon is a nice spell because it auto-targets, so aimbots make the game easier. It doesn't matter where you're targeting, so long as you're throwing the mines outside of the dead zone around your character. Now, once Dodri goes down, we're going to get 3 monoliths that are going to spawn, and Dodri will become ghosted and do a lot more damage to us. So we're going to need to run around and kill the red monolith first, and then we kill the green and the purple monolith. The red monolith makes us take more damage. So right now our life is fairly stable, but that could change very rapidly once we're starting to take 25% more damage from that monolith. So we need to find the red one. Looks like it's this one, and kill it. Now if your life starts to get too sketchy, it's time to move. And you can stick and move around the room to dodge. But as you can see, we're relatively tanky still, unless we catch a really bad slam in the face. Focus on killing this red monolith though as fast as you can. Unfortunately, we cannot curse the monoliths, but we can go ahead and curse the next target we want to kill. And I think we're going to go ahead and kill Malagaro next, because Shavron's bouncy projectiles could get really, really dangerous in the next phase. Once the red monolith is down, we will move over to killing the green and the purple monoliths. They are both reducing our action speed and our total damage. And so when those are dead, we will be able to kill these guys much faster. I imagine that we're probably going to kill Malagaro in between these monoliths going down just from splash damage. And so when that happens, we'll just have to be aware of the degens that he puts out and try to position ourselves well. Thankfully, we can attack from anywhere on the screen with the power siphon locust mines. Remember, you are just spamming your life flask the whole time you're playing. There's no reason for you to do anything but spam it. Every time you hit a flask, you gain 4% of your life back. And so the life flask leaves a healing dot on you that is separate from the standard heal of the life flask that you can see on the top of the screen that's always running. So that's a little bit of essentially regen, but we want that 4% life recovery every time a flask procs. That's very important to keeping us topped off. There goes Malagaro, so be careful now. We also got the mine. So Shavron dies next. You kind of want to stand on the outside edges of the room and get those degens in comfortable places rather than being in the middle of the map. He puts 3 of them out. You can always swap over to volatility here. This will increase our single target damage. She's immune when she's up in the air, so there's no point in standing there taking hits. We are a punishment-based build, and so we use that for defenses, but also for damage. So whenever Shavron goes down to 50% of her life, she's going to start taking a lot more damage. Power Siphon also has a really nice Calling Strike built into it, so we don't have to worry about carrying a separate Calling Strike to kill high health targets. Now once Shavron goes down, we're going to get the big guy that comes in here, and he's super easy. Just don't stand in puddles. You can face tank everything he puts out, as long as you're not standing in puddles. Hello, big boy. Make sure your curse is on him. Throw your power siphons out, and then don't stand in the puddles. I think it's funny how these things bounce whenever they have that colliding with terrain effect. Be extra careful with that red puddle. It stacks up to 10 times versus the boss, and you can absolutely just get one shot. Like we just stood in one right there. And a second one? What an asshole. And a third one? Just spamming puddles out. Usually these puddles are spaced out a lot more. But as you can see, generally you're just tanky enough to avoid puddles and DPS the boss and just base tank everything else here. He's about to hit under 50%, so we'll start doing more damage to him here shortly. Purple Puddle's not so bad, but it reduces your action speed, which is annoying. And if he has any boss chill effects, and you're not immune to chills, the reduced action speed could leave you permanently 0 action speed, which means you can't even play your character. If that happens against this boss, your only option is to literally exit to character select, and then come back in and make sure that you don't stand in a purple puddle. And boss dead. T17 complete. Saboteur, he was a little bit of a challenge to get together. Saboteur has some low recovery issues with no real damage scaling. So Power Siphon Locust Mines ended up being the best way to go about doing this. But let's take a look at our POB. First thing we're going to go over is our items. Now the biggest expense is going to be your wand. To get a good wand, you can just go trade for these items. Go to weapon, then go to execute. This is going to give us a trade link here that is going to give us a reasonable weapon, the character, and it's going to be based off of the stats that are best for the character here. So I'm going to sort this. We'll go down here and we'll sort this by maybe 50 chaos as our single largest investment on the character, and then hit search. It's going to give us 810 wands that match. You're going to sort this by sum here. And we can check this 6 chaos wand, because maybe this is like a really strong outlier. Now we would need to, this does fire and lightning damage, and it's already got cold damage crafted on there. So we'll just go ahead and plot this one. I don't think this one's going to be ideal. Go from 1.1 to, wow, 1.37. Never mind. That thing's crazy. Use it. This would be a 250,000 DPS upgrade over mine. 6 Chaos Orbs. This one at 333 is obviously a little bit less than the 366 sum up here, so that's just an outlier. But realistically, you're going to be spending between 5 to 50 Chaos for a 300 sum wand here, which is going to get you to about the damage I'm doing with this wand that we have right here. Now, for the rest of our gear, our shield here, you're either going to buy a shield with recover 5% life on block, or you're going to buy a base Shaper shield and just alt spam it until you hit it. Probably going to spend about 5 to 15 chaos on that. This helmet, I think I spent 5 chaos on. You just want accuracy, life, int, and then an open suffix. Kaom's Heart, just get something with a decent corruption on it. Thunderfist, get something with a decent corruption on it. I didn't look for a corruption on Thunderfist or Windscreen, but you should. Our amulet here is doing the heavy work on our attributes. The amulet itself was cheap, but we did spend, I think, 14 chaos on catalyzing it, and so you do need to catalyze it and get the most that you can out of the attributes. If it also has some additional damage on it, that's awesome. Try to get it with an open suffix. You can get mind throwing speed crafted. Tamings, we just want a couple of cheap tamings here. The tamings that I have are a little bit higher price, but you don't need tamings with this much resistance on them. You can always get your resistance elsewhere. For example, this taming right here, we would expect to find a 10 res taming with maybe 28 all res on it, and so something like this. Save this, and so that would get us, 1028 here. We equip that 1028 down here as well. This puts a little bit under on our fire and lightning here, and so on our helmet here, go ahead and remove that craft and add a fire and lightning craft on the back of the helmet here. That'll put us up at 7175. And then we can just find a jewel that has some fire resist on it. Or we can see if we have like this cold on our shield. Instead of having cold res on your shield here, you could simply find a shield that has fire res on it, or you can use your harvest bench to convert this cold to fire res, and that'll do you good for getting your resistances capped. You don't have to have perfect chaos res, you just want to make sure that you do have at least 75% fire, cold, and lightning, and then a positive chaos res with your amethyst flask up. For your belt here, you just want to get resistances on your belt. That's all we're looking for. I went with a cold and a chaos res belt, and then I crafted on the extra suffix lightning and chaos, and it had some life on it as well. You can pick these up for like 5 to 15 chaos as well. We have an eternal life flask with charges when you're hit by an enemy. I'm using an eternal life flask. You could use any other divine or really whatever. The biggest thing you're looking for is the recover additional 31% of the life flask recovery over 10 seconds. The highest roll you can get on that, I think it goes up to 50. And you need to gain 3 charges when you're hit by an enemy so that you can spam it. Jade flask gain charges, granite flask gain charges, amethyst gain charges, sulfur flask gain charges. You do want armor and evasion ideally. And then you're going to bench craft on 3% of your life regenerated during effect and 15% damage taken from hits leached during effect. And for your jewels here, you just want anything that's going to help you finish out your character. I got a lot of stat jewels and a lot of increased maximum life jewels here. I think this one has poison damage on it. We obviously don't need poison damage, but the extra damage when we're holding a shield is nice. You're just looking for simple things like this. I think I spent between 3 to 5 chaos on all these. We've got about a total 1 div required investment on the character to get to this point. And with the wand that we had, you're looking at about 1.1 million DPS. And so that is a very, very nice solid setup for us. Now we're going to have to go and look at our skills here. On our skills, we are running Molten Shell, Vitality. I didn't mean to click that. Molten Shell with cast when damage taken, and Vitality and Petrified Blood. We are automating detonating mines, and then we are running Flame Dash as well. You do not need to automate detonating mines. If you just want to hold down the G button while you're playing, it'll detonate the mines just the same way. But this makes it a little bit lazier. We have Tempest Shield with Determination and Eternal Blessing. We're running Precision with a self-cast Assassin's Mark. Punishment with cast when damage taken, so we don't have to worry about casting this curse. And then Power Siphon bound with Volatility or Pierce plus Locust Mine and Charged Mines. So this is a nice little setup right here for doing single target. If you're doing like all-around content and you don't want to try to get white sockets on your gloves, then just run Pierce all of the time. I think you'll be perfectly happy with that damage all in all. For our tree is life and life and life and life and life and life and life. We need 6 life nodes at a minimum because we do want to take all of the life mastery so that we can have that extra 10% life total. We are going blood magic here as well, so life is king. We're running about 8,700 8,700 total life, and about 50% of that unreserved. We absolutely do have to have champion of the cause and reservation mastery here so we can fit in all of our R's and keep our life up. We have charges everywhere that we can't afford to get charges here. And for damage, we have Forces of Nature with Elemental Mastery. This is a ridiculously strong node right here. Don't pass it up. The inversion is such a huge amount of damage for us. We are also running Poison Mastery over here. The only reason we're running Poison Mastery is so that we can get enemies poisoned by you cannot deal critical strikes. Crits are what are always going to be killing you on the build because you have recovery and huge sustain and huge block and evasion. And so the only thing that you really have to be concerned with is getting one shot by a slam that happened to roll that 5% crit. All the rest of this we don't care about. All of the extra chaos res is nice, which is why we took the Fatal Toxins node as opposed to any of the other poison nodes that are available to us. We're also running spell suppression everywhere on the tree that we can. So we are spell suppression capped. We're running block everywhere on the tree that we can. So we are block capped with 2% increased maximum block for 50% block chance and 80% block and then 50% spell block chance. So really a solid layer of defenses and a solid layer of recovery on the build, which is how we get to the point that we are where we can just sit in everything and tank everything. Now, if you have any questions on the build, please leave a comment down below or come by Twitch and ask. It's much easier for you to just come by and ask a lot of these interactions are a little bit complicated. And if you're missing one piece of the jigsaw puzzle, that's going to be the hole that every enemy hits, and that's why you're dying. So feel free to stop by, and we're happy to fix whatever is wrong with your build and help you get. Y'all have a wonderful day. Peace.